Hi everyone, this is Xander Breach, and this is Before the Journey, My Early Childhood 2. Now, before I get into the first episode of Season 2, may I remind you to do yourself a favor for a quick recap and watch the 16th episode of Season 1. So you get the idea of where I left off on this episode. And also, please watch the warning video before watching episode 1. There's important information in the warning video that you need to know. Now that we got that out of the way, let's begin a recap of episode 16, where I last left off, which was our season finale of season 1. So in episode 16, I basically mentioned my mother's cruel ex-fiance coming into our lives, or should I say back into our lives, because he was also the former friend of my late stepfather. I talked about how in the beginning everything went smoothly, but after a while I also talked about the start of the abuse he put upon us, with me being first in line to deal with his abuse. I talked about what he did to me, a few things that he did. I talked about lifting me up in the air and strangling me at the same time, forcing me to eat dog manure. And I also talked about how he punched me like a man when I was banging on the door ridiculously in the front and the back door. And I also talked about the secrets that was being held, that he was hiding from my mom, and the secret that my mom was hiding from him, as well as my brother and I. But as we get further into the story, you will slowly discover what that secret is. But I won't go into too much detail about it, due to the fact I need to honor her memory. So now that we got that recap out of the way, let's go right into episode 1 of season 2. 97 to 98. So we're going to start right where I left off, starting with the events that happened right after we watched Waterworld. To start this off, I'd like to explain what the movie Waterworld is. Waterworld is a movie that came out in '95 that stars Kevin Costner, trying to remember the villain who was in there. You had Kevin Costner in there. I think it was Dennis Hopper. Yeah, Dennis Hopper was the villain, yeah. Yeah, I drew a blank there for a moment. So, you have him in there, and then you have the very young Tiffany Majorino in the movie Waterworld. So the movie takes place in a world that's just nothing but water. Land is basically underwater, and the whole world is water. And you got this guy who's half amphibian, half man, and he goes up against a bad guy, portrayed brilliantly by, of course, Dennis Hopper. And he goes up against him, and the whole world is just nothing but boats and water. That's basically what it is. Villages are boats, you know, towns are boats, everything floats. But it's a really good movie. It's an action flick. One of Kevin Costner's best. And to me, a 90s classic. So, now that we got that out of the way, let me go ahead and talk about the events that happened after watching Waterworld. Later that evening, thinking that my mother's ex-fiance was finally nice, I was dead wrong. I was just about to go to sleep, and by that time, he had me probably on the floor, laying down, and sleeping on the floor. I think I made him really mad during that time, so sleeping on the bed, I lost that privilege. So he comes in the room, looking at me with this disgusted look on his face, and he says, "You made me be nice to you." And he kicks me on my side, just like he did after I got punched in the face. But I think, yeah, he kicks me on my side. He was not happy. And to tell you the truth, I was just scared stupid. So, while he's watching wrestling, I have the privilege of laying on the floor, nothing but wearing boxers, and the only thing that's keeping me warm is a pillow on my head. And if I remember this correctly, I think, yeah. If I remember this correctly, yeah. He kicked me on my side because he was mad. I had to hold still on the floor, arms to my side. If I moved, he would kick me. I moved once, he kicked me. Flashing the flashlight to make sure I wouldn't move a muscle. I held still all night long. After that, my mother came and covered me up. So, after that little incident, I woke up the next morning, he takes the blanket off of me, and he's like, "Who put this on you?" I look at him and I'm like, "Mom." And Mom told me to be quiet that night, so I kept my mouth shut till he took the blanket off. My mother did not let him hear the end of it. He literally told my mother off that he was punishing me, but if you look at it, the punishment was a little unorthodox. So, that day turned out so-and-so. And then another time around, this is when his sons start becoming a bully. One day I'm outside minding my own business, and his sons, my brother, and his son's friend, may I remind you, my brother was young, so he was easily influenced at the time. Do not blame him for this incident, or his sons. I literally see them and they start chasing after me. All of them in a row, running after me like a fucking stampede. And I start running. I thought, what the fuck? I'm running, out of breath. And as soon as I stop, they come and hit me on the back with sticks or whatever they had. And they kept going. I ran around the whole house while they were riding their bike, literally around and round in circles. While that's going on, my mother's inside, concerned, saying, Why don't we get the boys to stop? They look like they're uh, being a little too rough on Chad. And guess what her ex-fiance says? He's like, no, they're just having fun. And I know he was watching out the window with a ministering grin on his face, seeing me in pain as his two sons, his son's friend, and my brother beat the living shit out of me or tried to. Like literally watching closely with that ugly grin on his face. Because oh boy, when the pussy boys attacked, we have a good time. Yeah, it's that bad. During the weekends in the summer of '98, so my mother and him can have private time, he goes ahead and takes me, my brother, and his two sons to the skating rink. Skating rink was fun, but didn't have much money. And his eldest was the one holding the money. So we would get food, we'd have to go to the eldest. We would get snacks or candy, we'd have to go to the eldest. I would try to skate, I sucked at it. We get skates from the place where you rent skates, but I sucked at skating. But it was fun. It was all fun. We do that frequently. His eldest, at the time, I found out he had a girlfriend. And one time, me, my brother, and my mother's cruel ex-fiance's youngest son watched as the eldest son was kissing a girl. I saw that and I got to thinking, man, I wish that was me. I mean, that's when the hormones started to kick in, but it was kicking in a little too early for me. I was 11 going on 12. Weird, right? So I didn't know what to think of the whole kissing situation. I was still just a kid. We did that a lot. We did that nights and nights, but after all, going to the skating rink with him, it felt undeserving. Or him taking us to the skating rink felt undeserving. One night, he wanted to see if, I pooped my pants, because he's been disgusted with looking at my underwear and seeing the streaks. He's done the same with my brother, but with me, he was disgusted. So one night, he decides, when we get out of the skating rink, to ask me to pull down my pants in the car. What a very inappropriate place to ask a child to pull down his pants in the fucking car, I thought. Like literally asked me to pull down my pants. I pull it down, I tell him I didn't poop my pants, and he saw a streak in my underwear, and he's like, what is that? Woo-hoo! Hits me really hard with the palm of his hand on my face. And looks at me, he's like, looks like you did poop your pants. Why did you lie? I thought to myself, why the fuck did you think I lied? So I don't get beaten by a pulp by you. That same night, he took us all to go get root beer floats. He looked at me and he said, here I am, getting you a root beer float, and you don't deserve it. So you better be grateful for what you get. I look at him and I'm like thinking, thanks for the float, but if I truly didn't deserve it, then you shouldn't have brought me here. Like seriously, dude. Seriously, you shouldn't have brought me here. So, all in all, thinking about it, it was one after another. I mean, just to tell you the truth, he wouldn't stop. We still had to help him out at night, me and his eldest. One time I didn't do something right, he decides he's going to get his ping pong paddle, have me hold the back of my adoptive father's truck. What a dishonor to my, stepfather's truck, not my adoptive father. Excuse me, let me correct myself. And have me hold the front or the back of my stepfather's blue truck while he gives me a spanking of my life with a ping pong paddle. And he told me if I scream, he's going to hit harder. He took that ping pong paddle, and as a dishonor to his late friend, making me do what I did, he spanked me. I screamed loudly and loudly like I can. So loud I hope the neighbors could hear me. And he kept hitting harder, 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 hitting me while I cried like a blubbering, broken baby over and over again. And by the time it was done, he's like, shut the fuck up. I look at him and I think, what an asshole and dishonor you are to your late friend. The bullying didn't stop from there. I come home from school one day and I guess word got out to his son about things I've said, and from his school, and his son didn't like what he heard. So his son does the honors of going ahead and sees me and says, Chad, I need to talk to you for a moment. His eldest son takes me, pushes me to the wall in our room and says, I hear you were running your fucking mouth. What's up with that? I look at him and I'm thinking, what do you mean? And he just hits me on my face like a bully, like a domestic bully. Just starts hitting me in the face. Like, yeah, you ran your mouth. Then my brother and his younger brother, my mother's cruel ex-fiance's youngest son, comes, and then they start hitting me. Literally. And all I'm thinking is, man, life got shitty when he came into our lives. But I do remember one good thing, though. One of his punishments would be the start of starting something new in my life. Yep. And I would keep my mouth shut on this one. One day I didn't do what he needed me to do, and he decides he's going to punish me from cartoons, watching anything cartoon. I could watch TV, but not cartoons. And he had a camera in the room to make sure I didn't watch cartoons. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to give you an excuse to beat me up. So at that same time, that's probably when I got into music videos. Finally, one of the punishments that he gave that actually meant something. And that punishment and not watching cartoons would be the start of me watching music videos. I remember a VH1 countdown that came on. That VH1 countdown featured a countdown of the favorites of the Backstreet Boys, including some of their biggest hits of the 90s, going from 96 to 97, maybe 98. But I got introduced to my love for boy bands watching this countdown. You had the Backstreet Boys putting in their music videos of Quit Playing Games with My Heart, As Long as You Love Me, and, of course, Everybody Backstreet's Back. A lot of their videos of that time was on that countdown. And I believe NSYNC was on that countdown too. May have been, I'm not sure. But a lot of their videos was on that countdown. And I sat there watching, and I'm like, this is cool. Watching music videos is cool. Because during that time, there was some big names that was coming out in the music scene. You had Backstreet Boys. You had NSYNC. You had Robin. You had Savage Garden. If you grew up in the mid to late 90s like I did, and you know these names, and later that year, Britney Spears would come out. So you had a lot of big names coming out in 98. A lot. But then you had names that has been around since 96 on that countdown as well. So some pretty cool names was coming out with some music, and they had that prior music they came out with 2 years before, and I was just getting into the music. Oh man, the 90s music was really banging during that time. Whew, was it banging. God, I remember that time. But that is how I got into music videos. He comes home. He's expecting me to, be mad that I didn't watch cartoons. And he's pretty mad that he doesn't get to beat me up because I did what he asked. Gave the man exactly what he wanted. And I said, how did I do? He's like, you did good. Like he had that shocked look on his face. I didn't give him an excuse to beat me up. Like literally. All because I decided to watch music videos. I didn't get beaten up. The one time I watched music videos. Not one hit, not one smack. I'm like, well, now I know what to watch now. And after that, I got into music videos. I do recall that. I got into music videos after that. Because cartoons was starting to become a thing of the past at that time. Until I get into like grown-up cartoons. I mean, I haven't really strayed away too much from cartoons. But I was starting to slowly get into music videos. So by that time, watching that countdown, that's when I started getting into music videos. And I loved every single bit of it. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. So if you guys want to know how I got into music videos, that's how I got into music videos. But just when I think the pain and the abuse is over, no, it's not over. Not by a long shot. Things are going to get much worse. But there's going to be some people that are going to come back in our lives that's going to be the relief I need and my mother needs as well. And they were going to take the room that me and my mother's cruel ex-fiance was in right now. They're not coming now, but they were coming soon. and had a very good time, I may add. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. My cousin Billy and his mom. Yeah, they're going to come back for a certain amount of time, but had a very good time. But not now. So I end this by saying this is part 17 and the season premiere of season 2. And y'all take care of yourselves, and God bless you. Bye bye.